Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on some tips and tricks and some hacks to getting your build-up to sound even more efficient, to making it feel more suspenseful with more anticipation so that your drop is more amazing. Okay, we're going to focus today on four main things that you can do to add this into your build-up. Here I've got my own example. So since goal 3, I've added a couple of things, and I'll explain them as the video goes, but first I just want to show you the different layers. At the top here is the drum layer we chose from goal 1. I chose this one for goal 1, and I've moved it to bar 16, like we were meant to in goal 3. I've also added a bass layer here, and then from here to here, I've got all of these synthesizers, and each of them is acting as a different harmony layer. Now, don't be confused, you can use lots of synthesizers on top of each other. They're different harmony layers, because harmony is all about stacking things on top of each other, so that is okay. Be careful with stacking lots of bass layers, it can get a bit muddy, but definitely for harmony, you can stack lots of layers. At the bottom, we've got a dubstep rise, and I'm going to explain what that does in a little bit. And finally, we've got a bass that I've added in. So I actually do have two basses just for a more deep sound for the drop. Let's have a listen to my example and then we'll dive in. Alright, so that should give you an idea of the structure. So we've got the build up until bar 16, or bar 15 really. Then there's a moment of silence, mostly, except for one layer, and then we've got that drop. Let's talk about some things that you can do to make your build up even better. We're going to start out by having a look at these mysterious lines over here on the left. You might see them going through. Now, some of you might have already used this, but this is called automation. If you have a look over here at this little connect the dots pattern on the very right of the instrument panel, if you click on that, there should be a button that says add automation. It'll give you three options: volume, pan, and sweep. Now, each of those allows you to adjust different elements of your track. We're going to have a look at the sweep one mainly because that's the one that's really interesting. Volume allows you to alter the volume over time, which is fantastic, and some people have already used that in their film or rock compositions earlier in the year. But I'm going to show you what that sounds like here with this hot pink pad. Now I've used it, if you can see, the sweep. Now what you can do is you click anywhere on the line and it will create a dot, and you can move that dot up and down. If you add a second dot, you can then alter the line in between, which creates a slope. Alright, now if it's the sweep I've got here is muffled. There's actually different ones that you can choose, but we're just going to go with muffled for now. The lower it is, the more muffled it's going to sound. So as this goes up, the intensity and the clarity of the sound is going to hit us more in the face, and it's going to create a really intense build-up. Have a listen to this as it gets more intense through that muffled sound, slowly being lifted. So you can see from the beginning to the end, it absolutely got less muffled and more intense. That's one way that you can actually add some more intensity over time to your layers of music to make them gradually enter rather than just coming in very hard and arbitrarily. Now you can use that if you want. It will create a very open and floaty sort of effect towards the start, and then we'll get more intense. The second thing that you can do is still in this layer. Now you might have noticed that I've actually edited this loop here to quite significantly over here. But the thing is, I actually haven't changed any of the notes. What I've actually done is instead, here's the original loop, and I've just doubled it here to go for another 2 bars. But it goes for 2 bars. And you'll see here, over here, sorry, I'll get rid of that. I've actually made it a 1 bar loop. Now the way you can do that is just by getting it and shortening it in half. Now it doesn't matter if it's a MIDI loop or an audio loop, it's fine, but you can shorten it in half, and then I've just copied it and pasted it. Now the benefit of this is that you can make your sound closer together. So those loops suddenly start feeling like they're more and more on top of each other and being pushed together, which gives it a lot more energy and push. Have a listen to this just by itself. Sounds very floaty and open because there's a long chord in the second half that just stays there. But as we move further up, and then here I've cut it in half, so it's only 2 beats. And then I've just used that second chord there at the end and repeated it 4 times. So that can make your composition feel a lot more energetic by pushing everything closer together. The final thing that you can do here is add a dubstep rise. Now, there's lots of different rises that you can get all over the internet, but this one's supplied by Soundtrap. So if you type in rise, you can see here there's all sorts of different things, but the top one gives you a pitch rise that goes up. It's pretty similar to a race car kind of revving up its gears. Have a look at Goal 2 here. If you have a listen to this piece that we all listen to together, you'll hear that there's a pitch rise in the background in the build-up. Have a listen. Whoops, wrong section. Have a listen here. Just there at the end, you would have heard that. So that's the pitch rise there. And what that does is it builds the intensity even more. So if things are going up generally or closer together, it just makes it feel more intense. So with pitch, we want it to rise. And if we've got this slow rise of pitch, it can be really effective. Now, what I've done is I've actually combined this with that first thing I've told you, the muffled sweep, so that it starts kind of gradually. You don't even notice it's there until it creeps into the sound. Have a listen. That gives it a lot more intensity when it doesn't just hit straight away. It kind of feels like it's coming out from the background and part of the mix rather than something separate. So those are 3 things that you can really do. Now this final thing that I want to show you, and I did say the final thing was final, but I've got something else to show you that can make it even better. And that's adding a drum layer here to the to this build-up. Now you might have noticed that there isn't any drums here, and there might not be any drums in your build-up yet either. So let's talk about how you can actually add your own drums in to make this build-up. Now, if you remember from earlier in the video, with this here, we made this initial 2 bar thing into 1 bars, then half a bar, then just a quarter of a bar, so just 1 beat each. We're going to do the exact same thing with the drum. And you heard it as well, back in this video here. If you listen to that drum layer, you can actually hear that the notes are getting shorter and closer together. So what we're going to do is do something similar here. I'm going to open up my instrument, my drum instrument. I'm going to click on patterns, and I want my drums to start really hitting their stride just about here. Now I can move this bar that I'm editing just by clicking and dragging. I'm going to move it to here. And at the start, I just wanted to hit on the first thing of every beat. You know what? I might not even just want one on every 2 beats. So I'm going to put it one at the start and there. So let's have a listen to that. Great. So what I'm going to do is close that and drag it and repeat it. Now, when I'm going to do this one here, instead of every 2 beats, I'm just going to do it every beat. So same process, open up the instrument, click on patterns, and now, and move your bar along, I'm going to add it every 2 beats. Sorry, every beat. Have a listen. Continuing on, we're going to drag that across. Now it's going to be tartes. So we've gone from tars, I'm going to make it tartes now. Now, you don't have to do this all on the one instrument. I might actually just move it to the snare instead. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like. Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting, so I can do it that way. And in this final bar here, I'm going to do tougher teffies, okay? I might even just save the tougher teffies for at the last 2 beats. So get rid of those. And let's have a listen. That sounds pretty intense. So if we listen now to the whole thing. So that drum layer is going to really drive it in as well. So going from rhythms that are further apart, like tars, to tartes, to tougher teffies, and using different parts of the drum kit, don't just use one instrument. Those are the things that you can really do to build up your build-up to a really sufficient way. Okay,